Good afternoon, Kitchissippi. It is Friday, June the 13th. This is a video version of the 441st Kitchissippi Weekly Ward Newsletter. There is lots more information about all the topics that we'll discuss in the weekly email newsletter, to which you can subscribe at kitchissippiward.ca. The headline item in my newsletter again this week is with respect to the new alcohol in parks policy. City Council has passed that policy, and it is now up to City Councillors to suggest to the City any parks in which they might want to see a pilot run from July the 1st through until mid-October. It can be some parks, no parks, one park. I am looking to try to do a pilot in at least one of our parks. Right now I'm thinking a lot about Champlain Park. I've heard a lot of reaction from that community, most of it favorable, and that's where I'm leaning today. I've had some other parks that have been suggested, like Hintonburg Park. I'd initially thought perhaps Parkdale Park as well as La Roche Park. I'm still really intrigued by the notion of allowing alcohol in the park on night markets nights, if the city will give me the flexibility to curtail the hours. But if you have thoughts about which parks, if any, you might want to see alcohol permitted in, and you want to see the rules, visit my newsletter and write to me at jeff.leeper@ottawa.ca. Also in the newsletter this week, there is a rezoning coming for 99 Parkdale. We've received the community heads up. It looks like they want to rezone the property to allow for a restaurant, fast food, or full service restaurant at that building. It doesn't change the size of the building. It doesn't change how many units, etc., are in there. But at that commercial space that is at grade on Parkdale, they are seeking to be allowed to put a restaurant. This is just the heads up phase right now, so I've got early notice of it in my newsletter. Lots of documentation will go online over the course of the next week or so. I have a link to that in the newsletter. If you are copying the city with any feedback, please consider copying me. I'm not proposing to do a big open house around this one. I don't think it's going to be particularly controversial, but if you have feedback that you're providing to the city, please consider copying me at jeff@ottawa.ca. Committee of Adjustment is pretty much the same as last week. There is a single application that is coming up on June the 18th at 505 Dawson. The owner is seeking to subdivide the property into two separate parcels of land to establish separate ownerships for each side of the existing semi-detached. The city's planning department has now weighed in and expressed no concerns. We've also received the decisions from the June 4th meeting. At 424 Churchill, the requested variances were granted, as were the variances at 482 Kensington, as well as 15 Clarendon. And there was a severance proposed at 37 Kenora that was also granted by the Committee of Adjustment. Another reminder, Councillor Ariel Troster and I are co-hosting a budget consultation that is going to be held on Thursday, June the 26th from 7 until 9 p.m. at the Plant Bath. In addition to the city staff to answer questions, we're going to be getting some very short presentations from a number of guests who will also be invited to weigh in as you, the residents, ask questions of city staff about the 2026 budget. Suzanne Obiora, Joanne Chianello, Sarah Button, who's with CCOC, and Cassie Smith have all been invited and agreed to participate as our experts. A few events in the community to talk about. There is a repair cafe at Tom Brown Arena that's going to be hosted tomorrow. That's organized by the Ottawa Tool Library in partnership with the city. The June 14th event is a drop-in that will be held from 10 a.m. till 2 p.m. Bring your jewelry, small appliances, electronics, clothing for repair at the Repair Cafe. They are Forêt Capitale Forest is seeking volunteers for a couple of tree planting events that are going to be coming up at the new Westboro Beach Pavilion. There will be a tiny forest planting on June 20th from 5 until 7 p.m. and tree planting on June 21st from 10 a.m. until 1 p.m. You can figure out or find out how to register for those through the link that I've provided in the newsletter. On June the 18th at First Unitarian, One World Grannies and the Unitarian Go-Go's are proud to present Unconditional Love. That's going to be held June 18th at 6:30 p.m. Evening of storytelling and song. Very reasonable price, $35. Take a look at how to get your ticket in the newsletter. Hintonburg's Arts Park is tomorrow. That is June the 14th. It'll be over 20 years of Hintonburg Arts Park. Enjoy the local crafter market showcasing 35 artisans, as well as free henna tattoos, a pottery wheel demonstration, a fire truck visit, and there is lots of entertainment that's going to be held on the Pat McLeod community stage. You don't want to miss some of the headliners, including Lucky Ron, and there will be the Art Throwdown again this year. I'll see you in Parkdale Park tomorrow for Arts Park. The Hintonburg 5K and 1K races are coming up. Those are going to be held on Sunday, July the 13th. I have a link in the newsletter for how to register for that event. City Hall continues to be very busy. The Built Heritage Committee is going to meet on, we already did. The Environment and Climate Change Committee is going to be meeting on June the 17th. Fairly substantial agenda. Residents might be interested in the response to recent inquiries about rats and the calls to 311. There's the annual drinking water quality report. There is a really intriguing looking report on household hazardous waste depots. How can those be expanded, increased in numbers? And then, very importantly, there is a report coming forward that will suggest that City Council proceed with in-depth evaluations of a number of options for dealing with our solid waste when the Trail Road Waste Depot fills up in a few years. They're looking at the options to build a new landfill, build an incinerator, or do nothing, and work with private dumps. That is a really important report to me. I'll be taking a close look at it. I think residents know that I am generally opposed to building an incinerator. I think it creates very perverse incentives when it comes to solid waste, the amount we consume, but that will certainly be a very good debate at the Environment and Climate Change Committee. The Planning and Housing Committee is going to meet on June the 18th. Fairly substantial agenda. Uncontentious, I think, are the zoning for a big new subdivision in Stittsville, reworking of school and residential block in a subdivision in Barrhaven. There's a rezoning planned to allow for a planned unit development of 6 stacked unit dwellings in Orleans South Navan. There is a tower and adaptive heritage reuse on Argyle. There is also a planned unit development at Richard and Moody that I think will all be carried fairly quickly. There is a proposal for, if I recall, a 4-story low-rise apartment building on St. Cecile. It's mid-block. It's an R4. It's going to be an interesting discussion. I don't think a lot of us had anticipated that the city would contemplate additional height mid-block in the urban neighborhoods. So I'll be very interested to see what our discussion turns out to be on that one. There's also a subdivision that has been proposed for Riverside that is in very close proximity to the airport, and I suspect we're going to have a fair bit of discussion about airplane noise. At 1010 Somerset, the zoning is proceeding to allow for the school to be built, a rejuvenation of the park, as well as an expansion of the recreation facility that's there, along with future residential development toward the Somerset side of the property. And we're also going to consider together the annual development report and the official plan monitoring report. That should be a fascinating discussion as well. Right after, on June the 18th, the Planning and Housing Committee meets. There is going to be a joint meeting of the Planning and Housing Committee with the Agriculture and Rural Affairs Committee. We're going to be contemplating the official plan amendments that are required in order to bring our OP into conformity with the provincial policy statement. It's a fairly technical document, but you can take a look at the documents online. And then we're also going to be considering the process for adjusting our growth management strategy in light of the Ministry of Finance's population projections. The whole official plan starts with how many people do we expect to live in the area within the time period contemplated by the official plan. The provincial government has ordered us to start using their Ministry of Finance projections, which are higher. So we're going to go into a whole new growth management strategy using those higher projections. There may be the requirement to add more land to the urban boundary. Maybe we intensify more than we already are. That'll be a fascinating process. The joint meeting is just the start of that process. We're sending them off to do the work, but obviously something that a lot of us will be following extremely carefully through the entire process. And then finally, the Emergency Preparedness and Protective Services Committee is going to meet on June the 23rd. Substantially, their agenda consists of receiving the annual reports for our bylaw department as well as from our paramedics. Kitchissippi, that is the newsletter this week. It's a really busy one again. I hope you enjoy some sunshine, and thank you for watching.